Hey everybody, welcome to the JG Show. I'm in the ring with Jason Cortis. Jason Cortis is a boxing coach, a pro coach, and I think you even used to fight a little bit back in Australia, yeah?
Yes, I did. I had my first amateur fight when I was 16 years old.
16 years old, first amateur fight.
And I actually got fight of the night. That's how well I remember it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's how, this is gonna be an excellent podcast. We're starting with fight of the night. Jason Cortis here. Let's do it. All right, so we're gonna start with, I guess, you gotta tell us how you got to China. I mean, we're in China, we start here, and then you can rewind it back to fight of the night.
The short version. So I was 27 years old and I was out with my cousin and two of my best friends for my birthday. And a girl walked in the club, drop dead gorgeous.
Okay.
And she had 4 friends behind her. But as she walked in, it was just like all the focus went on her. Like she was the leader of the pack.
Okay.
And then she rubbed my bald head. And I was just like, wow. And then I'm like, where's she going? Where's she going? And then they came back out and she grabbed my hand.
No, okay.
And then we started walking and we walked upstairs to this club and we were chatting, and it ended up being that she was actually moving back to China in 2 days after living in Australia from the age of 6. So 14 years.
So you caught her 2 days
so
before she left?
So I caught her 2 days before. So that is fate. And here we are now, 14 years later, married with a kid.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, crazy.
Wow.
I just saw her and she saw me, and
that's a beautiful story.
Yeah, whether she had a few drinks in her or not, maybe, like the reason why she grabbed my hand, because not many women would do that, or girls, if you say, because she was 20. And they actually just happened to walk in there because they were busting for the toilet.
Okay.
So when she told me that, I was like, wow. We took a group photo, and then I said, make sure you give me your number so I can send you the photo. Okay. Back then, like, it was dodgy mobiles, like Nokia.
Yeah.
Like, remember the Nokia phones? This is going back, 14 years ago.
That's right, before the smartphone.
So it was crazy. We met up the next day at her friend's place, and we just chatted, and then we literally stayed in touch for 5 months. And then that 5 months, the relationship was built over the phone. Like, there was no WeChat back then, there was no WhatsApp, it was Skype.
I wasn't expecting this story.
Skype, and it was phone cards that I used to call, and then sometimes it wouldn't go through, so I'm yelling at the operator service. It's not an actual person, the recording. I'm yelling, saying,
"Fuck
get
you.
me through,
What
get me through. My mum's coming in the room. Yeah, why are you yelling at? I said, I'm not yelling at anyone. I'm yelling at the stupid recording.
Wow.
And then she came back after 5 months. She pretty much had enough of Australia. Like, she had enough, and she wanted to get into the family business in China.
Okay.
So in Zhongshan, Guangdong province. And we pretty much, as soon as we saw each other after 5 months, everything just blended together.
Amazing.
And then we spent, I think, a week or 2 together, and then when she left, I was like, I'm like a sick puppy, right? Like, oh my God. But her mind was set. Like, she was in China to look after her family and look after the business. And we probably did long distance for 1 year. And then her dad said, why don't you go back to Australia to study, to his daughter? Because she didn't really have any studying background in terms of fashion. It was just what she was learning on the job. And luckily they had a business partner in Perth, and the dad suggested Perth because he thought it would be good for us to go somewhere where we don't know anyone.
Okay.
So we can just focus on each other.
Okay.
So when I looked back at it, and I thought, wow, that's great. And Perth is really laid back.
Okay.
And it was Fremantle. Like people are walking with no shoes.
Just ultra chilled.
Head down.
Yeah.
Like no job, no employment. But we spent, I think, 18 months there. So that really bonded us together. And then I pretty much went to Zhongshan. Because for me, what it was...
So Zhongshan is where, when you first came into China,
was
it straight to Zhongshan? That was
straight to Zhongshan. And then it was just a matter of... But my intention was to come here because I had already met Ed Curtin. But then it was about how I was going to do it if I got the job, because it's a 2.5 hour...
It is far, right?
...bus ride. And now, at least from Hong Kong, you can get a train, but 10 years ago, you couldn't. So I think that didn't work. So then I think I was trying to get some work in Zhongshan, but I couldn't. And back then, 10 years ago, I didn't think how I think now. Like, I was too lazy to learn the language like I am now.
All right.
Now it's a little bit different because I'm stuck in China.
That's
I'm trying
right.
to learn it.
Post-COVID change.
Yeah, but 10 years ago, like, I was just like, I need a job.
Okay.
And then I think I lasted 6 months. And then I told my girlfriend, now my wife, that I said, I'm going to go back and I've got to reevaluate. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't think like I thought now. If it was now, I would have stuck it out. I would have studied
Chinese. Yeah. Maybe got into a different industry.
Yeah.
Because back then, China was there was so much opportunity. It isn't as it is like it is now. China's transformed a little bit. It's become a little bit more closed.
Yeah.
They work with the people that they know now. But back then, as a expat, you had a certain amount of value.
Yeah.
Right, and they would pay for that.
I actually moved here to be closer to my girlfriend. But then how would I have done it?
Yeah.
Like, would I have worked here during the
Zhongshan
week?
doesn't have much too, right?
They don't. They've got like a few gyms, and there's actually a few fight gyms, and they have a few people, and there's actually one or two MMA gyms now. But it's.
What was it like back there? Back then in Zhongshan?
For me, it was just. It was crazy because like.
So different, no?
You don't see any foreigners. Like now you see a few, but not as many. But it's just the mind being so different. Like if I think now, because even now, like there's so much more information on the internet and people that you follow, and everything's about experience. Like if we could take ourselves back 10 years ago, like even sometimes my wife asked me, what would you have done differently? I said, I would have learned the language and I would have like studied every martial art as possible.
Yeah.
Because if I look back at it now, 10 years of experience of learning a language, whatever language,
would have done
and
well.
Different martial arts.
That's right.
But I mentally I wasn't strong enough then.
Mm-hmm. So you went back to Australia. Then what brought you back? And I think this is when you go into Hong Kong, right?
And then so then at the time I didn't even once think about Hong Kong. Like I just didn't think, because I didn't know that it was a big expat community. This is how blank I was. Mm-hmm. But then that's just it. I didn't know. And then I was in Australia and I was still doing my PT work, my boxing work. And I was training a female friend of mine, and she said to me, why don't you try Hong Kong?
Oh, okay.
She said, I got a cousin that works for Pure Fitness. And then I'm like, okay, what's that? And then she was telling me, and she said,
one of the largest gym chains. Back then, at least, it was one of the largest gym chains in all of Asia.
And she said to me, look, they're always hiring people, and a lot of expats go to Hong Kong.
Yes, that's right.
So I got the job like that, because even now till today, if you look on Pure Fitness website, they're always hiring for a boxing trainer. Because people usually go there, they stay a couple months, and then they just go freelance.
I see. So they kind of get a network enough, or get a client base enough.
But now there's a rule where that if you do leave Pure Fitness, with what I've heard, there's a rule.
To non-compete.
If you open up a studio or something, they're very strict on it now. Because they caught on. Eventually they caught on.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
So then that brought me back. So then going back to my story, if I would have ended up in Shenzhen, I would have gone back on weekends to Zhongshan. I've been doing that for the last 9 years. But from Hong Kong. I was working in Hong Kong Monday to Friday, Monday to Thursday, and then I would go back to Zhongshan on the weekends.
That was your schedule?
That was my schedule up until this year.
Really? How did you get to Zhongshan though?
A ferry.
A ferry. So okay. So the
it's
ferry
only
would have gone
90 minutes.
And so it goes up to Human. Goes up the Human.
It goes towards Macau.
I see. Yeah.
It goes everywhere. Shandy, Jiangmen. It goes everywhere from Hong Kong.
I see.
But the last 2 years they even had one that was 70 minutes, like a 70-minute ferry. So it was even quicker.
Yeah.
So from door to door, it was taking me under 3 hours, and you get used to it. So and I was doing that as a freelance trainer.
Okay.
Since then.
That's
and
pretty.
It was working.
Nice. And it was working until COVID hit. Now I've got to change it up.
Back to square one. So now I'm actually in China. So now I'm thinking how I should have been thinking 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. What the opportunity is here now.
Yeah.
But let's go back. Let's rewind all the way back to the boxing days. Back to that fight of the night, your first amateur fight.
Fight of the night.
How did that happen?
I was 16 years old. My older sister, that's 10 years older than me, her friend came over, and he's from Ghana, and he was about 6'3". At the time he was 26 and just built, ripped.
Okay.
Like small like an Adonis, right? Just a beautiful man. Like the guy was good looking, right? dressed really well, was smart, like worked as an IT consultant or something. And I said to him, what do you do? And he said, I box. Like, really cool. And I was like, yeah, like, what do I got to do? And he said, come try it out. And I went and I fell in love. Fell in love with the sport straight away. And then I remember I was sparring, and the guy that was training these two Aboriginal brothers, Glenn and Kevin Kelly, and both of them actually fought for a world title, and one of them actually fought Roy Jones Jr.
Really?
When Roy Jones Jr. got knocked out the guy with his hands behind his back, that was one of my teammates, Glenn Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah, I trained with them from the start.
Okay.
So they were heavier than me, but Kevin Kelly actually fought a guy by the name of David Reed, who won the maybe 96 Olympics and was losing, and then ended up knocking out the Cuban champion to win gold.
Oh, wow.
But his career ended short because he had a droopy eye.
Okay, what happens with the droopy eye? Is it just when you've been hit
I
so
think
many
because
times?
I think he had like an infection or something, but he went into it as a pro with that eye.
Oh, I see.
And then, you know, being pro other than amateur, you get hit more because of the protective headgear.
I see.
So he had to end his career quite early.
Oh, wow. So you got actually you've had exposure to very high level pros back
Yeah,
when you
so
started.
when I started, and I mean with Ted Coffey, who I started boxing because of, my sister's friend, he fought, I think he was an IBO world champion. He actually fought, I think, the WBC champion of the cruiserweight division, Juan Gomez, maybe 15 years ago.
Gee,
so I was exposed and...
Really high level boxing right at the start.
Yeah, right at the start, 1996 when I started.
Is that Australia though? Is that how all boxing gyms are in Australia?
Yeah, I mean...
I remember I went to one back when in Australia. I went to one, it was run by the police. It was like the police would do
that's
that.
where I started, PCYC, Police Citizens Youth Club.
So the police would box, right?
So when I started, Ted and Kevin and Glenn Kelly were training at Daceyville, PCYC, Police Citizens Youth Club. Okay. Inside there's a basketball court, there's maybe indoor soccer. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much just for you, somewhere to go for youths. Judo, karate, and then a boxing gym.
Yeah.
Like, run down, but like old school.
Yeah, old school. It has that feeling that where legends are made in here.
These two guys, you know, Glenn and Kevin Kelly were workers. Like,
so they got you in on to that first fight? They trained you for that first?
No, I was just training, but then the trainer, I think, was sort of paying no attention, and then he put me in with a guy that was at the time, I think to memory, 27 years old.
Okay.
Some of these things you never forget.
Yes, yeah.
One of the guys that was training, Dino Billinghurst, and the guy that I ended up sparring, they were screws. So they were police guards. Okay. But in Australia, we call them screws.
Okay.
And they were like, the guy that I sparred wasn't as like macho or just tough. Uh-huh. Like the Dino guy, like just when he trained you with the pads, like he would like tell you how it is. Like, you know, don't fuck around. Like, keep your fucking hands up if you don't want to get hit. Mm-hmm. The other guy wasn't a trainer, but he was training there. Okay. But I ended up sparring his workmate, and I knocked him down. Oh. And then like the guy that was training Glenn and Kevin Kelly sort of said, you're here with Ted, right?
Oh, right.
And I'm like, yeah. And he said, do you want to fight?
Promising.
And then I'm like, yes. And I remember the guy that I fought, I don't remember his surname, but his first name was Ahmed. Like there's a lot of Ahmeds, in Australia, right? Ahmed. Like his name. Like, you know, because there's a lot of Lebanese in Australia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Ahmed, Habib.
Yeah, a lot of Ahmeds.
So he was like about as tall as you, and I just couldn't get to the guy, and he just kept pulling my head down.
All right.
And I was like, this isn't what I'm learning and like what I'm doing when I'm spar. And my trainer just said, clock him with a straight right hand. I did, and his nose just went everywhere. And then the fight got stopped.
All right.
And I was like, wow, I want more of that. And then one of the ring announcers or tournament or coaches came up to me, and then it's like, he said, make sure you don't leave. You got fight of the night. And I was like, oh my God, wow.
Wow.
And then I ended up going on to having, I think, 50 odd amateur fights. But amateurs is it's very easy until you get to a competitive level if you want to travel. In terms of saying that, like, it's 3 2-minute rounds. Like the adrenaline, and when you're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, like, you've got so much energy and fitness.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so I was sometimes fighting 3 times a day, because you fight in the morning and then you wait for the next person who wins to advance, because they would have like PCYC titles.
Oh, it's like a tournament almost.
Like the Police Citizens Youth Club of of Shenzhen is fighting Guangzhou, and then whoever wins that fights the winner of Hong Kong and Shanghai.
Just keeps going and going.
Just keeps going for the day. So sometimes in a day you could fight 3 or 4 times if you keep winning. So it builds up very quick.
I see. And you had the energy for that. You had the cardio.
I had the energy because I didn't have my first drink till I was 27. When I was training when I was 16, I was just full of energy, and then I was just always training.
Oh, right.
And at that age, you've got no fear.
Okay.
Like you're going in the ring with a bit of nerves, but you've got no fear. Like I'm sparring Glenn and Kevin Kelly.
Big guys.
Yeah, they end up fighting, Roy Jones Jr.
Jesus.
And then when I turned pro, it just happened by chance. I was training at a different gym because I think maybe I had a year or 2 off, and I got in touch with my trainer, and he was training at Redfern. And at Redfern who was training there was Anthony Mundine. Anthony Mundine was a very famous NRL player. Rugby league player in Australia.
All right.
So very controversial. You've heard of Anthony Mundine?
No.
He's half Aboriginal. His father was a fighter.
Okay.
But he's very outspoken. Like he thinks the whole world's against him. Great guy because I trained with him, I sparred with him. But just like that, he called it quits. And then he was in a car with a Muhammad Ali book, and he said, "I'm turning professional." And he just skyrocketed. He fought for a world title in his 10th pro fight. Wow. And was winning the fight till he got knocked out cold against a German guy called Sven Ottke that punched like a pillow. That's why everyone gave him a lot of slack. But he won the Australian title like in 4 fights because he was just so naturally talented.
I see.
His ability, like he was a...
So he was like your mentor / coach?
Yeah, like he was like 76 kilos. He came down but was just like so fit and fast. Like he was just a natural. He had like 4 amateur fights.
Amazing.
Ended up winning a world title.
Amazing.
Still fights now or tries to fight. He's like 40 something.
Still tries to go.
Because his name still makes money.
Oh, all right.
Like with all sports, like we're talking about marketability.
All right. Yeah. So he still has a name out there for this.
Yeah, but it's just it's very hard because I had a lot of fights, but then people that have hundreds of fights, they're the ones that take it to the next level because they're the ones that'll be signed by a promoter, a good promoter. Mm-hmm. I was lucky when I turned pro that I was at Anthony Mundine's gym because he was fighting on Main Event. So for me, that was TV exposure.
Oh, okay.
So half of my fights were all on TV from the get-go.
I see.
But then when you look back at it now, like how to go about it, I didn't go about it correctly.
Okay.
Like, in terms of sponsorships, yeah, maybe I had 1 or 2 sponsors, but how to keep you going through it all because it
gets taxing, right? After a while, it's a...
Well, yeah, because still you've got to work, so you've got the energy, but you're a PT trainer, but PT trainer becomes boxing trainer where you're holding pads all day for someone, and then you got to hit pads yourself, and then you got to spar, and then you got to run.
I see.
And then it got to the stage where then you got to sell tickets for the promoter.
Oh, okay.
That's where it becomes how big of an amateur background you had, or a name that you had. So it ended up being where...
So that you could actually leverage that fame to the promoter to get a better fight, get a better deal, and be able to...
And then at my stage, it was the promoter saying to me, here's tickets that you need to sell for me, here's tickets you need to sell for your purse. And for me, it was a $2,000 purse for a 6-round fight, and for him, it was $4,000 worth of tickets.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't know that many people.
Oh, I see.
I know enough maybe to sell 2,000 for myself, but how do we split that?
Yes, I see.
So then
so then he's kind of like, well, if you're not going to sell, then I'm not going to put you into fights.
Because at the end of the day, Anthony Mundine has got the name, or the Mike Tysons, or the Roy Jones, or the Canelos. They've already got the name, but still the promoter wants to make money.
Yes, that's right.
So for the lower shows, Anthony Mundine's they make their money from the sponsors. Maybe not as much from the fight, but it's more about the sponsorships. Yeah. And then all the clubs that are airing their fight. Yeah. He gets royalties. Okay. But for the undercards, unless maybe you're the second fight from the top, you might have a different deal. But for everyone else, you've got to do it yourself. That's right. And then when I moved to Hong Kong, it was the same thing trying to chase a fight. It was the same thing, how many tickets can you sell? So coming to Hong Kong, you came to Hong Kong with like a good amateur fight record. Yeah. And when I came, actually, I was training at a gym, and there was an Australian guy by the name of Matthew Corbett, who was an Australian Olympian. He went to the Olympics, and then he was telling me, he said, "Oh, you look like you've boxed before." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Australia." And he said, "Me too." And then he said, "Oh, I'm actually moving back." He said, "I trust if I give my clients to you,
all right,
you would know how to train them properly." Because even back then and even now, as you know yourself, everyone's a trainer, everyone's a pad holder. Because they watch YouTube and they all get excited. But the thing is, because when I was in Hong Kong before the pandemic and I would train with my coach, we would always laugh at people on the internet that were holding the pads. But the thing is if I'm training you and you've never done boxing before, you're going to think that it's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the way that it is. But
yeah, the client will think like, wow.
Yeah, wow, look how fast I am.
Yeah.
Like you don't go into a ring and you don't do these, you don't how they do the pads now. Like they all try to imitate the Floyd Mayweather way.
That's right, the complicated.
There's only one.
That's right.
It's like with a lot of fighters. There's only one Muhammad Ali. There's only one Mike Tyson. There's only one Floyd Mayweather. And I mean, for me, it's just. Now I'm 41 next month. But,
wow, 41.
Yeah. But I got into it when I was 16, and it was just. I was lucky because it was two Aboriginal brothers that were grinding it out, that were working a full-time job, but were just trying to make it to the big time, and they both ended up fighting for a world title.
Nice.
And
so they have that, right? And whatever they do, going beyond that, they can still use it, right? They can do. There's a bit of fame there, because it is tough, right? I mean, if you're done, I can for everyone knows, like, to go pro is already quite an achievement, and not only that, but to achieve anything in the boxing. This is something I like talking about, is the actual the mechanics of the pro sport and how.
I never really cared about the money. I mean, I just thought, 6 rounds. Usually they pay $200 a round, right?
Oh,
that's how it went back then.
Was that how it was?
That's how it was. Okay. I mean, I had my first pro fight at, I think I was 21. So almost 20 years ago. Okay. And it was a draw, and I was like, how was that a draw? Like, even now, I had, I think, 2 or 3 draws, and I'm like, you can't draw a fight. And like, even the first one I fought, he said, how did I win that? He said that to me. He'd lost his last 15. And it was my first pro fight, and I'm like, how was that a draw? But
that's politics, you think?
It is, and I mean, that can be very disheartening for a lot of fighters. But as they say, you just go back to the drawing board, and you just make sure you go harder, and as they say, you try not to let it go to a decision.
Yes, that's right.
But that can't always be guaranteed.
Yes.
But then you just always keep yourself in the gym.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
what Dana White says, right? Don't leave it to the judges.
Yeah. I mean, that's why now, I mean, if you jump to the UFC, I mean, you don't see a lot of unanimous decisions. I mean, because they're in there to finish them.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, now with the boxing side, I mean, it's too much money is involved.
So much money, right?
Too much.
Yeah. I
mean, it's a shame, but back then for me, $200 a round, no problem. Doesn't matter if you stop him in the first or the sixth, you still get $200 a round.
$200, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so whether you lost it or not, there was $200.
Yeah, that's what I made sure of.
Okay, so if you win, did you get a bonus?
No, because I remember when I went up to the Gold Coast once and I fought a guy by the name of Robbie Spigen, and I was fighting guys with a lot more fights, even though they had a lot of losses, but they had more fights. But with Robbie Spigen, I remember clearly to this day, I was also training at the time with Peter Graham, the Chief, who was a K1 fighter.
Okay.
And, because a lot of the K1 kickboxing, they also do boxing because they keep themselves busy. Because a lot of them, they don't work. That's their job.
That's their life,
They fight.
That's it.
And I was sharing the locker room with him, and we both got a pair of 10-ounce raised gloves. That was the first time I'd ever got a chance to fight with him, and they call them the puncher's glove. And he was like, wow, and he started punching the wall. And because they just feel amazing. I think actually I had 8-ounce. Because I think back then, I don't know if they do it now, anything more than 147 pounds, it becomes 10-ounce.
Okay.
And then below that
they just give you 8 ounce.
8 ounce,
Because you're light enough, right?
Yeah.
So,
And then I think at the weigh-in, the weigh-in was like at a nightclub the day before, and he came dressed in a flannelette.
Okay.
Flannel, we call it.
Okay.
a flannel shirt, like, you know, the long sleeve tops, but they call them flannels. And like, he just like looked poor. Like, he looked quite homeless.
Okay.
It's not a thing to judge someone, but then I was like, this guy's a fighter? It's not like I was in a suit or anything, but like, you know, I can't remember what I was wearing, but you know, I was 21 years old on the Gold Coast. But then the next day when we came face to face in the square ring, like, he had veins on his shoulders.
Popping out,
and like, I don't know where that came from, because the day before he looked drawn, like, you know, to make weight.
Is that a weight? Oh, weight. A weight.
Yeah,
cut.
like in pro, you're lucky because you can weigh in 24 hours before.
Okay.
But now there's a different rule where you can only, for the big fights, you can't come 10 pounds over.
Okay.
It's because then they will give you a big fine.
That's right. Yeah, you get fined if you come in. Is it even 5 pounds? What about 5?
I think maybe, yeah, it depends on who's the name. But
right.
sometimes if you're a big enough name, you can tell them, you know, no more than 5 or 10, whatever you want, because you make the rules, and sometimes it's like $1 million.
That's right. Yeah, they lose like 30% of their purse or something.
Chavez Jr. fought Danny Jacobs, and I think Chavez came in 3 pounds over.
All right.
And then I remember watching a clip, Danny Jacobs and another guy, Gabe Rosado, who have got bad blood, and they're actually fighting now, and they came in confrontation with each other, and then he said, oh, thanks for something. Because of that, I got paid an extra $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got paid an extra $1 million, so please come in overweight next time, especially if I can win, right? Then.
So, yeah, but I mean, I look back at it. I mean, I would change a lot of things differently. I mean, a lot of people would when they look back at whatever they've done, but you don't think how you think now.
That's right.
Because now we're just so much more exposed to so much more stuff.
There's so much more information too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's information is more readily available.
The few people that have made it big, they're the ones that just automatically think differently back then.
Yeah.
You know, 10 odd years ago. I mean, I follow and listen to Jesse Itzler a lot.
Jesse Itzler. Okay.
Because of him.
Is he a pro fighter?
No, Jesse Itzler's like a serial entrepreneur that dresses like a bum.
All right.
And he actually started a thing called Marquee Jets.
Marquee Jets,
where it was like Uber for jets, where it was like a card.
Okay.
But his story is amazing. But because of him, I then actually got onto, like, everyone knows David Goggins.
David Goggins, yeah.
Because Jesse Itzler.
Okay.
And Jesse Itzler also, he's married to Sarah Blakely, who's the owner of Spanx. Spanx is an undergarment for women. That's like $1 billion company. So both of them together are dynamite.
Yeah.
But Jesse Itzler is like a hustler from like day one. He used to write rhymes for the NBA. But before that, he pretended to be Tone Loc's manager because he was a white rapper. Okay. And he got into an office and gave his demo tape, but said that he was Tone Loc's manager.
All right, that's how he got his foot in the door.
He started doing rhymes for the NBA, and then I think he sold that to someone, and then I think then what was it? He sold that to someone, and then he started doing things for like rich people, like life experiences.
All right.
So, you know, if you're someone really wealthy but you've never done something, Jesse is a new people, because when he sold his rhyme thing to someone, that someone was someone.
Okay.
So then he got his foot in the door to get a meeting with the people that owned Marquee Jets. And the people that owned Marquee Jets was his company, but the planes weren't his and his friends. The planes belonged to Warren Buffett's company. But when he was doing these life experiences for these multimillionaires, that multimillionaire, one of them knew the people from
you just
that
put
company.
some dots together and then created this idea.
And they said, there's no way we're going to give our fleet of jets to a couple of 26-year-old thugs. And they kicked him out of the office. And then they came out, and the friend came out and said, no, you did really well, but he said, think about it and come back. So then he thought about it and he said, who do I know? So then, because he's dealt with the NBA because of the rhymes, he got a bunch of players together, NBA, NFL, and went into the next meeting like that.
Okay.
And then they said, I would use it. LeBron James, like not LeBron James, I'm just saying use that name. LeBron James would use it.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan would use it.
Yeah.
This guy would use it.
Well, it just means you don't have to pay for a jet. You can just Uber a jet.
Uber it. So it was like a 30-hour card.
Yeah.
And then
brilliant. It's a brilliant idea.
He sold that, but then when he sold that, he had a ton of money. And then he was at an event called Hurt 100. It's a 100-mile run.
Okay.
Around a 1-mile track, I think. Or it could be another one, but it was 100 miles. And he was there with his team. You know, they had the money and they had masseuses and food and everything and chairs and lounges. And then he looked over and seen this big, bulky black guy. And that big, bulky black guy was David Goggins. And David Goggins was running by himself.
Okay.
And back then,
when he was like, fat.
He was fat, like stocky, but fat.
Okay.
But this is when he ran 70 miles and then broke down. Shin splints.
That's right, but then
was peeing blood and everything.
Yeah.
But then he ran that last 30 miles. And Jesse Itzler, because of how crazy he is of thinking, he was like, who the hell is that guy? So he took his bib number, he remembered his bib number and Googled him and rang him up. This is in his book, Living with a Seal.
Oh.
If you've heard of it. So this is one of the first, I'm not a reader.
Okay.
And then this book I read maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and then that changed me everything. And then he said, he met with him, and then he said, I want you to come live with me. And then he said to him, motherfucker, if you're crazy enough to invite me, I'm crazy enough to come. And so he spent 30 days with him. And back then he was living in an apartment, which was probably like a duplex penthouse with his wife and their first child, Jesse Itzler and his wife. Now they've got 4 kids. And he just said, you got to do everything that I do. And it was more of a mental test. Like, I think first day he was like, come down and do 100 pull-ups for me.
Okay.
Most people can't do 1, 5,
yeah,
10.
that's right.
And he said, we're not leaving until you do 10.
I think this story just clicked. I think I know the guy's face now, Jesse Itzler. I
Jesse
think I know his
Itzler.
face. And he paid for him to come stay with him. And then he would run with him every day and do all
And then one of the things that he'd done, which a mate of mine in Australia, an ex-Olympian, Luke Jackson, that fights pro, is David Goggins has the 4-4-48. Where it's run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
Okay, what was that? What's that again?
Run 4 miles.
4 miles.
So I think it's 6.5 Ks.
Okay.
Every 4 hours.
4 hours.
For 48 hours.
Okay.
So he knocked on Jesse Itzler's door, this is in the book, at like 10 to 12 and said, get your shoes on, we're running. And he goes, fuck man, what are you doing?
That's it.
And then he said, we're going to run 4 hours. And he goes, every 4 hours, every 4 hours.
How long is 4 miles?
6.5 Ks. 6.4, but round that off.
Okay.
And then he said, I've got to work. And then he said, you'll work in 48 hours. But I don't think Jesse Itzler ended up doing the
full 48 hours.
The full 40. I think it just broke him. But then a mate of mine in Australia, Luke Jackson, he ended up doing it because David Goggins, I think, went online and was saying that, you know,
sounds awesome.
I want people to do it. I've been wanting to do it. I was going to plan to do it when I went back to Hong Kong. It was like in Zhongshan. I'm with my wife, my kid. You need 2 days on your own. Yeah. And then Luke Jackson done it, like with sort of no preparation. And then Luke Jackson's a bit of a, you know, like he can just click as well. You know, he's a fighter. Like, so then he thought, I'm going to do another one, but raise money for mental awareness.
Wow.
Because he sort of suffers from it. It's on YouTube, his video. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
And he ended up then doing 5-5-75.
5-5-75. So
5 miles every 5 hours for 75 hours, and he raised about 12,000 Australian dollars for mental awareness.
Oh, nice. That is hard.
Yeah.
That's hard. What is it Goggins always says? Stay hard.
Stay hard. Yeah.
Stay hard.
So he's just a.
He's such an inspiration.
He's a freak. When I read the Jesse Itzler book, and then I got the Goggins book, but like a lot of people, it can change your mind, but then just for how long? Like how long do you? I mean, a lot of people, we all go through a little thing, right? Oh, yeah, I'm going to go hard for this month, you know. But people like Goggins or Jesse Itzler,
they never stop.
They just never stop.
They never fucking stop. Yeah. Goggins, you look at his Instagram, and he doesn't even have time to talk to the camera. He's always running.
Yeah.
He just talks while he's running. You know, you may be down. You gotta, you gotta work hard and stay hard. And he takes off. You know, they're like, all right, that's his Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real badass. He's probably the most
he is. Like,
biggest savage.
He's one of only
top savage.
Only one or 3 or 2 that tried out 3 times or 4 times.
Yeah, he's done Hell Week 3 times in 1 year, I think. Or
for someone that couldn't swim, that didn't like water, like a lot of black.
Yeah, that's a big claim to fame. If you've done Hell Week,
people don't swim; they run.
Yeah,
We all know
that's incredible. Huh? He's done.
Yeah,
that's a real.
But Jesse Itzler pretty much said to him, where he says to a lot of people, because he does a lot of, podcasts, Jesse Idzer, and he says, I was in a rut, where I would run and exercise, but if I could just take off or get a little bit of what David Goggins has, rub off on me and then rub off onto my children that I can instill in them, then I'm happy.
You'd be all right.
Yeah.
So did you manage to get a fight in Hong Kong? Did you manage to get?
I ended up getting one, and that ended up being for a charity event.
Oh, okay.
Which I was lucky. A guy that I trained.
Oh, like a white collar boxing.
Yeah. But my one was pro.
Oh, nice.
So because I said to him, I'm not putting the headgear back on.
Nice.
It was for Sports for Hope Foundation.
All right.
So the guy that I trained is in hedge fund.
Okay.
And the lady that he knows, her family owns everything, and then she has this Sports for Hope Foundation, and they raise millions of dollars, and they had tables, black tie.
Yeah.
It was at the Hong Kong Jockey Club.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2016.
Premium event.
It was on Now TV.
Nice.
Yeah,
yes.
so it was good, and why they didn't do any more, because even if I fought the same guy 3 times a year, if they had him 3 times a year, I mean, for me at that stage, it was just about raising money.
It was good, that's good. And you get a good profile too.
Yeah, you do.
In the right community.
And the great thing about it is 2 of the jockeys that I was training that are my good friends now, they were racing the next day.
Oh,
and then I said to them, there's no point spending $3,000, the cheapest ticket, $3,000 Hong Kong, where you can't eat, because you got to race the next day.
Yeah.
I said, so be the cornerman for me. So they were in the corner with my actual trainer.
Oh, nice.
And they were like, fuck, that's the best experience, because they were in the corner. They said, we could see the sweat.
Yeah, sweat, the blood.
And then he said, when I went home, I was watching it on TV, and he said, man, being there was better.
Yeah, much real up close and personal.
Yeah,
How many rounds was that? Was that a 3?
Yeah, it was 3. I wanted 6.
That would have been,
pro. The guy I fought was
event.
tough, and the guy in Asia they do it differently. He'd fought amateur and then he fought pro. They allow them to do that.
To go back and forth.
Yeah.
Right.
But I wanted 6 because, for me it was a few years out of the ring, and I knew my legs were going to give way. Not because I wasn't fit, but it's just sometimes the adrenaline, and then by round 3, the first minute and a half, I didn't throw anything, and then I hit him and I clipped him. And then I found my rhythm, but then sort of lost it in round 2. Not my rhythm, but my legs. They just felt like cement.
Okay.
Whether or not that was the
what do you do when that happens? When you...
I don't know.
Just
I think
slow right down, just step?
Sometimes you just slow down, but it just depends on what's coming at you. But, I was training, I think, for about 8 weeks. I went to Thailand as well to do a camp.
Wow.
Yeah, because I remember when I first came to Hong Kong.
Put a lot into it.
Yeah, because when I first came to Hong Kong and I was chasing a fight and I had one lined up, I went to Thailand to get fit. And then the guy that I was going to fight apparently pulled out.
Oh, right.
So when I came to Hong Kong, I tried to get in with, Rex,
yeah.
his camp.
Yeah.
But, it's like with a lot of areas of that, if there's only sort of one good fighter, they'll just look after them.
Yeah.
And then for the undercard, it just always comes down to how many tickets can you sell me.
I see.
And then apparently, I remember clearly it was my honeymoon and I was away, and the promoter got angry at me because I wasn't training. I'm like, the fight's 4 months away. I'm running on the beach. It's my honeymoon. I'm even 4 days.
Yeah.
4 months away. And then he called me, and I think because I'd injured my thumb.
Okay.
I remember it clearly now. And then he said, maybe you should cancel the fight. And I'm like, why? I still got a hand, and fighters, that's just how it is. You don't quit. And then he said, but also the guy, recently fought, so I don't know how he's going to be. I said, well, did he get cut or anything? So there was something a bit shady there.
Okay.
But this guy, I think he was Chinese but living in Thailand. I said, he probably fights every week. Because that's how he makes his money to pay his family.
Yeah.
I said, if anything, I should be more worried because if he's being inactive. I said, but I'm training. And then that didn't happen. And then that's when my client said to me, he said, I'm going to fight, and do you want to be in it because it's going to be like a charity event? And everyone that was fighting on the card knew each other.
Okay.
Your opponent, you
all know each other.
Yeah.
So you just do it for fun.
But that's how they do it now. Even in Hong Kong, they have fight nights where their Versus gym will go and to Impact
Yeah.
And because
that's nice.
It's just very minimal. Because
it's like a community thing.
Yeah, unless they travel, because it's just small.
Yeah.
I mean, Rex at the time was lucky because he was promoted by Top Rank, and Pacquiao was fighting in Macau.
That's right, and he fought in Macau, and didn't he fight in Vegas once, Rex?
Might have, but then now he wants to be in the Olympics.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So they're allowed to do that. They're allowed
to do it now. They weren't allowed to do it, but now they're allowing pros
to kind of switch back.
Certain pros.
Okay.
Like, I don't think they'd let Canelo.
But he would fight for China.
Yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be.
He was doing the Tokyo.
Yeah,
pre-qualifiers or something, but I can't remember what suit he was wearing.
Yeah, because if he's fighting in the Olympics, that means that China is looking to represent. Because I think China now there's something going on where they do want to up their boxing for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So they'd be looking at their current talent pool and they'd be saying, okay, Rex is our best guy. So Rex, we want you to fight for China. Leave the program, we'll fund you. Right.
But it's a very different system. Like, a couple of fights he was fighting, like he was getting beat.
That is very interesting. I want to research that.
It's very different because, I mean, you've been a pro for 4 years and then you're going back to fast-paced 3-3s or 3-2s.
That's right.
It's very different. It's
very different, yeah.
Like, that's why for me, when I had the charity one, I wanted 6-3s. Mm-hmm. Because, like, even the first round, a minute and a half, I didn't do it. Even when I spar, I don't throw anything. I just check their body language. Like, that's what an experienced person would do.
That's right.
Rex now, he's got
to give it everything for 3 rounds.
For someone like Lemachenko to switch straight away and be a pro,
that would be difficult for him, right?
But he done it.
Yeah.
Who struggled and where you saw it was Zhu Shiming.
Okay.
He was 2-time Olympic gold medalist. When he turned pro, he was throwing too many punches, even though he was winning.
Okay.
But it wasn't.
What's happened to him now? He seems like
I think he retired. I think.
He's retired.
I think maybe bad eye or something, okay. But he stopped. But he's got a gym, I think, in Shanghai.
Yeah, I think he's now. Yeah, it's taken a back seat, and he's not talked about much. He kind of left. Kind of dropped off.
But
the radar.
I mean, he was still winning, and I think he became a world champion. But then I think he lost in his first defense. But his style wasn't suited for the pros. But he'd be a celebrity anyway.
Yeah, still just for his cred, what he's done in China.
Poor T.
Yeah, he's one of. I guess he still remains China's number one most accomplished boxer.
Yeah.
Right. Fuck, that's interesting. You've had a good experience on the pro scene and even the fight and everything. This is good. This is really
man.
good.
Look, I like I said, it's like I tell just a lot of people, and like sometimes when I was back working in Hong Kong and they say to me, "I want to fight, man. I want to fight." I'm like, "Have you sparred? Like, have you had any fights?" Because it's very different. I mean, like. Even now when someone says to me or to you, like, do you want to fight? Like, I straight away think yes. Mm-hmm. But then I just think about what actually goes into it.
Yeah, that's right.
And then for myself, like, because if I go into it, I go into it to win.
Yes.
So it's like you've then got to drop everything because it's no joke. Like when I got offered that charity fight, like bang, I went to Thailand. And I went during Chinese New Year. My wife and mother-in-law got pissed.
Okay.
My wife goes, "Can you go tomorrow?" And I'm like, "No, I got to go now."
Okay.
It was in Thailand. They're tough. Like they don't really hold the pads technical, but like they'll whack you. They're just tough. Like you train twice a day, and then if you want to fight, if you're there like a Thai fighter, you got to run as well before your first training session.
I see.
Like
so they give you that option.
They give you that option. Like here, you want to fight white collar, you got to fight. You got to train. You got to fight.
Yeah.
So I was.
So what about the future though? Do you think you got a fight ahead of you? Do you think? I mean, inside you. What's inside?
I do. Straight away. Straight away. My son's only 4, but I would love to.
So you kind of feel like before I fully retire, I've got a few more ring
because
meets.
the thing is as well is like even yesterday I was saying it to the Eddie guy yesterday, Eddie Lee from
okay.
Like his body is wear and tear, like but he was a kickboxer. You know what I mean? He's been kickboxing is more brutal. The back knees, the this, like his body is broken.
Yeah.
Like with mine, I never absorbed that much punishment.
Okay.
I mean, I got KO'd once, but when I got KO'd, it was lights out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Then I probably got more punishment, if anything, like a lot of people do in sparring.
Okay.
Because in sparring is when you
need to feel some of the pressure.
Yeah, you need to feel it. But I never really got that. I mean, I never had my nose broken. they always say that, you know, you're never a true fighter until
you get your nose broken.
Not that I wanted to get it broken.
Nice.
But I mean, I've been cut once and a bit of blood in my, you know, and or ribs. But, you know, but when I was talking to Eddie yesterday, and then he said to me, you know, where do you see yourself with this whole boxing thing? And I said, you know, I still feel I could fight any day. Mm-hmm. But one of my things now is because I still want to fight. I have that passion and energy. I want to train fighters.
Okay.
Like actual fighters, because if I feel that I'm not going to give it everything to fight again, because that's what you really got to do, I can give that to fighters.
Okay.
Even if they're more experienced than me, but still I've got 24 years of experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like different styles. Like, I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, it was obviously Mike Tyson, but, you know, I mean, everyone wants to be like Mike Tyson. But for me, you know, because if you know, because I've got speed, quickness, it's trying to emulate and imitate Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones Jr.
The guys that are real masters in the ring.
And you're never going to be a Roy Jones Jr. or Floyd Mayweather, but you can try to emulate some of those things.
That's well said. Yeah.
So that's how I see it. And
so that's what we'll be doing tonight. Anyway, you got the guys coming in for, all of them want to get stuck in the ring.
Yeah, perfect.
They all want that experience. They want to be able to tick that off their bucket list of things they've done. Yeah, this is good, man. What a good story. I mean, right now, what do you do? What are you doing? So obviously in China, what are your plans now? The immediate future.
So in China now, so I'm trying to get something going with training people, just to pretty much make a living. Mm-hmm. But now, you know, someone's asking me about being a referee. You know,
might go into that side, the organization part.
I mean, the thing as well is that with that can open doors.
Yeah.
Because referee, you'll meet fighters. You know, I was telling you, like before, in Hong Kong, you know, I developed this machine with technology, but I can't go back into Hong Kong. So until I can, unless I get it shipped over somehow. But even in Zhongshan, look, there's a few fight gyms there. I mean, if I go into that avenue of opening up a gym in China, is somewhere. But then it's just a matter of bringing them from the beginning.
Bringing them to come up. Yes.
Like yesterday when I went to Eddie Lee's gym, like he doesn't train any pros anymore, but he trains some adults. But, you know, they sort of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, but he likes that because he's been training pros for 30 odd years.
All right.
Like he can't take that pounding anymore where he's catching the hard shots and all that.
I see, yeah.
And also too, he's catching kicks.
Okay.
You know, some of those kicks would,
yeah.
like even with some of the guys that I hold pads for, they still can punch hard. Everyone knows how to punch. And when you hold those body shots, sometimes they miss the pad and you're copping them in the rib.
Oh, yeah.
So a punch is a punch.
Oh, I'm not being paid enough to do this.
But you know, I went to one gym twice in Zhongshan, a fight gym, and they had a good setup.
All right.
You know, they had looked like they had a few, they had a good clientele base, and then there was one or two guys that you could see were quite good. And at one time, the first time I went there, they had a few Filipino trainers.
Okay.
And automatically you knew they were fighters. But then they were just saying that there wasn't enough work at the time, and then they went back.
All right.
But like, you know, in China, like, you know,
COVID changes.
You've been here longer than me. I mean, there's so many little cities here.
Yeah, this is a vast country.
Yeah.
We haven't, even though we've been through a lot of places and we tried a lot of things, we had a lot of opportunity. I think we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, you know, and now the great thing with social media is like on Instagram, the last 2 weeks I came across a girl, maybe from the US or the UK, that's cycling around China.
Wow, all
but
right.
she's into boxing.
Okay.
And she was in Hangzhou, and she was training at a boxing gym and looked like there's about 50 fighters there.
Nice.
And then I came across another guy that's Moroccan, and he's been living in Dilian for 2 years and had 2 pro fights.
Nice.
And he looks like he's at a quite decent.
Where's he from?
His background's Morocco.
Morocco.
Yeah, and he's had 2 pro fights.
Nice.
He said, he moved there 2 years ago.
This is a massive country.
Yeah.
Huge opportunity.
I mean, there is. I mean,
it's exciting.
These are small cities.
Yeah, these are. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
These aren't even the big ones.
like 3 or 4 million.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's a good way to end it. That's promising for the future.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and like you just said too, now with COVID, right? I mean, you've just got to look at different
options.
Different options.
Well said. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Final thoughts, Jason? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. If you want to box, if you ever want to do boxing, or even if you don't want to do it and have the intention of trying it, at least try it once. It'll change your life.
Get it out of your system.
Get it out of your system. Tick it off the box.
There it is, guys. Take it easy. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Peace.